Hey guys, thanks for joining me for another video. Make sure you subscribe to my channel below before we get started so we can continue to bring you some great videos. I was planning to have a discussion today about building your welcome book and bringing your first guests into your property, but we have had an absolute doozy of a week in terms of things that can go wrong. So I thought maybe we need to open up the curtain and show you some of the less glamorous aspects of running a vacation rental home. And I think this is really important because most of the videos out there are going to talk about bookings and income and how great and easy this is, but it's not always easy and it's sometimes very challenging. So I wanted to show some of that to you today. The other important thing is considering the day-to-day operations and some of the planning and prep work that goes into it. I'm joining you today from my guest room, which is an absolute disaster, and I wanted to show you why I think it's important for planning. So let's take a look at some of the items I have here with me. So the first thing that tends to pile up in my guest room are items based on guest suggestions. So I've had a couple of guests stay and they gave great reviews, but they left little private comments to me about ways to improve the property. And in the short-term rental business, hospitality is really important. So I recommend you take your guest suggestions and see if they're reasonable to implement. So one suggestion was to have a real coffee maker. We have a Keurig, but not an actual drip coffee maker. So I purchased one of those to add to the property. And I also bought a coffee grinder to have on hand. And of course, coffee filters are part of that. So it's a few more items, but for an investment around $45, if it will make that many more guests think that they had a fantastic experience, I think it's worth it. Initially, I didn't do that in this property because I was concerned about counter space, but my plan is just to put one down below the counter and leave just the one on the counter at a time. Another item that was a guest recommendation were softer pillows. So currently, I buy them mostly online like this, and I bought all of the same pillows, which the guest apparently has thought were too firm. So what I plan to do with these is put them in specific pillow covers that I will note are soft, and I'll put them on a shelf in the closet. That way if guests come to stay and they're not happy with the pillows, there are some others that are labeled for them to use that are softer pillows. So I think that's really important that you're taking those suggestions and you're implementing them in your property. It's one of those ways that guests will just feel like you've gone that one extra step when they come to stay with you. A few other items in my pile include things for holiday planning. So I have a few dish towels that I found on sale that have some holiday, and I have a few other items here for hanging a wreath or decorating a tree that I got on sale that I think if you can stock some of those items for guests, if your market would appreciate that or your target audience would appreciate that, then I think that's another way to kind of go above and beyond for the guest experience. Another really common thing that ends up piling up in the guest room here at my house are replacement items. So we have had a really rough week with that. I have a dining room chair, I'll show you a picture, where there's a rip in the corner and we need to replace the seat or fix the chair. So I'll talk more about that in a minute. So I've got that here. I've also got some wine glasses. These are commonly broken, so pick them up when you see them on sale and just keep them in your supply pile for next time you're at that property. Or if you don't go to the property often, you could identify these items and put them on a purchase list, for example, an Amazon list, where you're periodically shipping them to the home for your cleaning crew to put into the house. And finally, another thing that ends up piling up in my guest room are items for our next property. So we have just started our search for house number 3, and we don't currently have one identified, but we're hoping. So I'm starting to pile up some items here. I recently hosted a Tupperware party, and when you're a host, you sometimes get some benefits depending on the sales. And I was able to get some really great deals on some kitchen items. So I've got a box of those here too. So you need a space in your house where you're gonna kind of stage these items for your property. So think about that as you're getting into this game.
All that stuff.
Okay, now I want to tell you guys a little bit more about this rough past week that we've had. This feels a little bit like a confessional. Honestly, we have struggled with everything from appliance issues to broken items, so let's talk about that a little more. I told you already about the issue with the rip in the chair seat, and so our options for resolving that issue were to try to get the seat replaced, try to get the cover on the cushion replaced, or to buy cushion covers like on Amazon. But there was a shipping issue with those. Those won't come in for several months. So what I ended up doing was calling the furniture store where I bought these initially, and they happened to have one remaining chair in their scratch and dent area. And so my husband drove 45 minutes each direction to go pick up this one remaining chair. And our plan is to swap it out and then use one chair for kind of spare parts in case we have other broken issues come up in the future. So that was our way of problem solving for that one. Another issue we're having right now is with our dishwasher in our newer condo. This is our second dishwasher in the past 5 months. It's only been in there for 2 months. And our cleaner called me and notified me that there was an issue with a rapid blinking light and it's not starting like it should. So we got the owner's manual out, went through all of the instructions for how to reset it. We turned the breaker off and back on several different times and still can't get it to function. So I contacted the appliance company and have a repair guy plan to go out, but the problem is he won't get there for 2 weeks. And I have bookings coming up for the next 2 weeks. So I have to decide what to do about those guests and how do I compensate them. So my plan is to give them a discount and offer to either reschedule or cancel this without any penalty because this is an unanticipated problem. But there's absolutely nothing I can do to get this resolved sooner. I even sent a repair guy out there to see if the cleaners weren't able to fix it, but he could just reset it, and that was also not successful. The third major challenge that I've had this past week has to do with our mountain property. And I'll show you a picture of the thermostat reading we were getting. So this is showing it's 30 degrees inside the house and that the heater is cranked up full bore to 70 and just heating like crazy. This is one of our new ductless units that was installed this spring. So we have 2 of these units, one in the main room and one that is vented to the bedrooms. And our Wi-Fi thermostat for the bedrooms is offline. So we only can see this one thermostat. But the house has wall heaters throughout all the other bedrooms that we've set their thermostats on the walls to 50 degrees for backup safety. So to get a reading of 30 degrees means we either have a major problem with the wall units not functioning, or we could have a thermostat problem, or we could have a window wide open because this is in the mountains and it's freezing cold there. So we were scrambling to find someone who could go over to the house and take a look for us. And ultimately we contacted the HVAC system installers and they went over to take a look. There have been some thunder and lightning storms lately and a lot of electrical issues. So it turned out this was a thermostat error and the rest of the system was online and functioning correctly. But problems like this come up and it was definitely a moment of panic for us to see 30 degrees inside the house. That was quite concerning. So what do you do when all these issues come up? The first thing I say is don't panic. You have to stay calm and figure out just how are you going to problem solve these issues. So first you can kind of set yourself up for success. And by the way, you are going to have issues. I guarantee it. We've been doing this now a couple of years and I have issues almost monthly, or at least minor issues. We don't have major issues like this monthly, but you will have problems come up. So first of all, your cleaning crew is your first line of defense. Having a cleaner or a team of cleaners that communicate well with you and will relay problems or take pictures for you right away, that's really, really important. If there are guest damages, at least if you're using the Airbnb platform, you have to have photos and you have to submit that before the next guest checks in. Now, caveat here, that might be changing with their new host reimbursement plan, but as it stands, you have to take photos and you have to submit those before that next guest checks in. So you need the cleaning crew to identify major problems, take photos, document, and contact you very quickly. So our cleaners in this case were really great and heads up with the issues with the dishwasher and also with the chair. Your second line of defense is a repair guy or a trusted co-host. So someone you can call and say, hey, can you go over and just check this out for me? Now this doesn't apply if your property is local to where you live, but as you know, in our case, I'm 3 hours away from the closest one and 8 to 9 hours away from the farther one. So I'm not driving there after work, for example, to go check on a problem. I need to send someone else to take a look for me and relay back to me. So we have a couple different folks that we have employed. So we pay them for this service and they check on our properties as needed for us. I think the third important key is having some digital monitoring tools. So this has been really helpful, and I will do a whole separate video on this because I think the technology components that you use in your vacation rental are so important. But having cameras so you can see when people come and go, tell when the door was locked or closed, and in our case, monitoring the temperature. So we have that in both properties where we can tell what the temperature is. This is important so that you can make sure that it's set to a comfortable temperature before the guest arrives. We actually had a complaint about that before we installed this remote monitoring device in our mountain property, that it was too cold when the guest arrived because the prior guest had turned down the wall thermostats as we had asked. So if you have an opportunity to install those types of devices where you can monitor temperature, you can do that for your guest comfort. But in this case, it's also about maintaining the property. In our mountain location, the temperatures do get cold enough where if it were 30 degrees inside the home, our pipes could freeze and we could have a major disaster on our hands. So we do it for property maintenance and safety as well. So all of those are things you can plan ahead and mitigate your risk when things do go wrong. And finally, I would just say that when things come up, just start problem solving. Ask yourself, what are our options? So I already went through those with the chair example, but as I listed the options, then I had to look into each one of those. So again, as an example, do I have an upholstery repair person locally that I could ask to help me with this? I looked into that. Nope, wasn't an option there. The next thing was, can I get seat covers off of Amazon? Nope, not in the color or the quantity that I need in the next couple of months. Okay, can I fix it with a needle and thread? Well, I won't be able to get down there for 2 weeks. So is that something I could ask my cleaner to do? So all of these things you're just running through in your head. How can I fix this? And then the next issue is, how big of an implication is this to the guest? So ultimately, I told you we purchased a new chair, but that small rip is still in the property because I won't be able to get down there to swap out the chair for about 2 weeks. So this is where you have to kind of decide, how much does that impact the guest's day? Do I need to offer them compensation? Do I need to tell them about it ahead of time? For major issues like heating or water or even the dishwasher, I think you do need to tell them ahead of time. So those are messages that I'll be sending to my guests later today to tell them about the dishwasher disaster. But that's how it goes. That's real world. All of us have had issues with appliances in our own homes that go wrong. So that's going to happen in your short-term rental, even in this case, in a brand new building. So keep that in mind. Okay, guys, so not a super glamorous video this week, right? But I think it's important to highlight the ups and downs of the short-term rental business, and that you can get through these issues, that with some planning and processes in place ahead of time, it helps mitigate how painful this process is when things go wrong. So again, just think about those things when you are building your business and planning your vacation rental. Please make sure that you subscribe to my channel so that we can keep this coming at you. And hopefully I've got some good news on resolving these issues for you next time. So thanks again. Have a great day. I don't know what the hell I am saying right now.